It's an interesting news day in the world of Magic the Gathering. We just got another Kamigawa Neon Dynasty spoiler, and this one is absolutely ridiculous. And if that wasn't enough, Wizards of the Coast just let us know that there is going to be a big ban announcement coming that is unlike any we have ever seen.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The Magic Historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for another glorious installment of Mega Magic News! We have two major items to discuss today. We have the ridiculous Kamigawa Neon Dynasty spoiler and the major ban announcement that is going to be showing up soon that is unlike any we have ever seen so far. Now, let us start out with the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty spoiler card, and I'm going to reiterate this one more time. This is ridiculous. So, up on the screen, you see it now. You may have already figured out why I'm calling it ridiculous. The card itself is decently powerful as well, but I'm calling this spoiler ridiculous because of the card image quality. Look at how abysmal this image is. Yesterday, I talked about how I had moved from the group of people who thought that these were genuine leaks into maybe these were orchestrated, and at this point, it's really adding on to that. I feel like whoever is behind these leaks is totally just messing around, taking pictures and loading it up into some kind of editing software or some such, right? And going, how do I make this image even worse? I wouldn't be surprised if this was happening directly inside Wizards of the Coast. And like, what if we try and do like an organic leak campaign? But I don't know why they would want to make the images look so awful. So you can actually pick out a ton of information about this card. I'm sure you've been squinting at it on the screen going, good Lord, what even is this? So, from the information that has been gathered, it appears that this is one of the cards possibly from one of the commander decks, or it may be in the main set proper. But this is Risona, the Asari Commander, okay? So, 1 white, 1 red, and 1 casting cost. You can't see the type line at all. So, we don't know the creature types on this card, and when you look at the artwork, it's also pretty difficult to pick out what's going on here. There's like, is this like a dark shadowy figure like standing there as a person with kind of like gigantic wings, or is this like somebody who's bound to dragons? Like, is there a shadowy figure in the background with dragons flying around in front, or is that all part of Risona's body? Like, it's really difficult to make out what kind of creature type we're dealing with, but it's very evident that it is indeed a legendary creature, obviously from the fact that it has both power and toughness and the legendary card frame, right? Now, when you go down to look in the power and toughness area, there's no way to figure out what the power on this card is. You can't see it, but the toughness does appear to be a 3. So this could be a 1-3, a 4-3, whatever it is. Anyways, Risona has haste, and whenever Risona deals combat damage to a player, if she doesn't have an indestructible counter on her, put an indestructible counter on her, and whenever combat damage is dealt to you, remove an indestructible counter from Risona. So to me, this card clearly screams Commander style. In Commander style games, it's probably not going to be as crazy in some ways, but also more beneficial, because if you're playing in a Commander game, you can choose multiple different opponents to swing on to get the indestructibility counter onto Risona, but then you also have multiple opponents who can swing into you to take the counter off of Risona, because you'll notice that you can only ever really put one indestructible counter on her from her own ability. Technically, in Magic, there might be other ways to put these counters on her, but in terms of her own ability, you can have one counter, which means you only have to get hit by one opponent. Boom, that counter's gone. This card is back to being destructible instead of indestructible. But there's a lot of power here. It has haste, so you're going to get to swing with it right away, which most likely is going to lead to it being indestructible. And if you can guard your side of the board half decently and not let your opponent get in and actually connect with you to do combat damage, you're never going to lose that counter off of Risona. However, what is additionally interesting to me about this card is the fact that this is a modified style bonus card. And by that I mean it works perfectly with cards that care about you having modified creatures or possibly non-modified creatures. Because when Risona gets that indestructible counter, now Risona counts as basically a modified creature, and when that counter is removed by your opponent, then all of a sudden it's now a non-modified creature. So if they make any kind of crazy board wipes that get rid of modified, like destroy all non-modified creatures, you could set it up so Risona would survive that either way, although indestructibility also helps you get by that sort of thing. But either way, I like the fact that this is something that actually represents the modified mechanic. To me, the quality of this is absolutely absurd. The ability of the card as well to gain an indestructible counter just by hitting your opponent when it has haste, that also feels incredibly strong. You may look at it and go, hey, it's synergistic. I hit you, she gets a counter. You hit me, she loses a counter. And it makes sense. It's got that kind of symmetry to it, right? To a degree. But, you know, you can obviously, as we've seen with many cards in Magic, you can take a symmetrical sort of setup and turn it to your advantage. So this card seems like it has a lot of potential to be obnoxious, swinging out of the gates really fast and becoming indestructible. So I like the overall concept of this card. We'll have to see where it falls on the power level scale. Now, the other news item we have to discuss today is Wizards of the Coast announcing that we're going to be getting a special banning happening tomorrow. They announced it over on Twitter, and they basically said that fresh off of last week's introduction to the pauper format panel, the PFP, changes are coming to the format. Tune into Weekly MTG this Thursday for a pauper BNR announcement. So, normally, when it comes to these BNR announcements, especially for formats that are considered the lesser formats by Wizards of the Coast, and let's be very real, pauper is a format that Wizards of the Coast is only really happy to serve in the form of, hey, is there a common that's really good in pauper? Great, we're going to reprint it as a rare. Like, I feel like that's pretty much how much Wizards genuinely cares about the pauper format. They look at it and go, this is the format where people play with the least expensive cards. It's the design behind it is supposed to be, this is a cheap, cost-effective way to play Magic. And yes, there are certainly some commons from Magic's history that have a high price tag, but 99.9% of Magic commons are worthless, and that's part of the draw of the pauper format. You don't have as many powerful cards, you don't have the budgetary limitations, that's a huge thing, but that also, to me, makes it feel like Wizards of the Coast doesn't care that much about pauper. And as a side effect of that, you wouldn't really see pauper bannings or things like that happening with any real regularity. The format felt like it was just kind of ignored by Wizards unless they spotted a card that they could go, hey, you know what? We can make some money if we reprint this as a rare. Why have Ristic Studies as a common when we can make it a rare? So there is that going on. Now, this one's interesting because most of the time, like I said, when they have these smaller format announcements, they do them just on the website. They will just put out an article that's barely even mentioned, right? But here they are letting us know in advance there's going to be an announcement and doing a full-on Twitch stream at the same time, which seems kind of amazing to me if they're doing it live. I mean, Magic players get really upset about stuff. And when it comes to things like pauper, pauper is a format that is populated by mega fans of pauper, right? Like, pauper has super fans. So they're going to be really angry about the cards you choose to ban. They're going to be really angry about the cards you don't choose to ban. Think about the Commander Rules Committee and the way people flare out on them over everything that happens. They're going to do this stream live on Twitch, where people can complain in real time. I mean, people already complain enough on those Twitch streams. I have to admit, it's a very brave thing. So if you're not aware, if you're curious, the pauper format panel is similar to the Commander Rules Committee, except that the pauper format panel has a direct link into Wizards of the Coast through one of their employees being part of the council as well. Not council, sorry. I get it switched up. The pauper format panel will include a bunch of people who are heavily involved in the pauper format already, as well as Gavin straight from Wizards of the Coast, who will essentially act as the liaison between them and Wizards of the Coast. Although I imagine most of the time it's going to be a one-way street where they go, yeah, no, that's great. You give all these suggestions, I go and give them to Wizards, and Wizards goes, this doesn't make us any more money, so we're not doing any of it. I don't expect Pauper to, even though they're doing this announcement, I genuinely don't expect Pauper to get a lot of treatment aside from trying to figure out how to take commons from the format and make the reprints way more expensive, right? I mean, we all know what they did with Oublier, right? It's not tons of them floating around now. People had to wait. Oh, we're going to reprint this card from Arabian Nights. You've been waiting forever to get it, and we're going to make sure there's not quite enough copies kicking around for you because, get some, right? That's how Wizards of the Coast operates. So, anyways, that's all the news that I had to share. Do not tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I will leave some videos up on the screen if you want to spend some more time together. Big thank you to all my patrons, and I will see you next time.